One teaching that Buddhism is famous for is that all conditions are impermanent. Sabbe sankhara anicca. You hear it at Buddhist funerals, you hear it chanted in temples, ceremonies, and many Dhamma talks centre around this theme of impermanence. When we say all conditions are impermanent, we say nama rupa. So nama means mind and the contents of the mind. That's feelings, memories, thoughts, sense consciousness. Rupa is the body and the material world. And the Buddha encouraged us to reflect on this every day. All conditions are impermanent. Everything is changing. Because that's the truth, the reality, the way things are. And unfortunately, the way of the unenlightened mind is we forget the truth. We get confused, misunderstand, forget, mainly because we're not mindful of this truth. We don't keep it in mind. So what we tend to do is build up a view that things are permanent, lasting. And this gives rise to craving and attachment. When we're happy, we are saying, oh, this pleasure is mine, it's happiness, it's good. I want it to last forever and ever. I don't want to lose it. Happy with our family, our good health, friends, wealth, pleasant experiences. When something is painful, we don't like it, but we're also looking at it as though it's permanent, and that's why we suffer with it. When you meditate, you can use the teaching on impermanence to help you. If you're experiencing something painful, you can say, well, it will pass. You just wait and see, and it will pass. And sometimes that helps you through, knowing that it's impermanent. But when you don't know that it's impermanent, you act as though it's permanent, permanently yours. You own it, and it's your problem, your suffering. So the mind will make it worse. One of our constant sufferings in life is when something goes wrong. We feel like this is the way it is. Maybe things went wrong before, so we say, see, it's gone wrong again. It's always like this. We build up self-identity view, sakkaya ditthi, around this feeling and the thoughts of this is no good, I'm no good. So meditators will have this. Mind is not peaceful, so we say, oh, I can't meditate. I'm no good, I can't meditate, I don't have barami, I don't have merit. And already already we make it harder to practice. The more you believe that thought, the more real it seems, the more solid it seems, the more often it comes up. And it just becomes like your fixed view. I'm no good, I can't meditate, no point. What's the point? So this teaching on impermanence can help us. It's coming from the enlightened mind of the Buddha and the Arahants. So Ajahn Chah would use the phrase, "mai ne." It's not sure, it's not certain. Even when things are painful and difficult, it's not sure. It can change. If you only think of the painful things and you give importance to the painful things, then that starts to become what you look for. And you can always find something that matches your view. Something's gone wrong, something didn't work. Sometimes there's pain. Then we become disappointed or depressed easily, because that's what we're looking for. As we say, bad news sells. So if you watch news broadcast or read newspaper, don't think anyone does anyway nowadays, but the news tends to focus on things that are going wrong. Accidents, disasters, problems in society, crime, economic problem. And so people start to look at their life or the world as in quite a negative light. Because that's what sells, that's what we notice and give importance to. Journalists are even instructed to look for problems, bad news, because that's what will sell, that's what makes a headline. Good news is not very interesting. A couple of days ago we just reached the anniversary of the Boxing Day tsunami, when almost 300,000 people died on beaches around Southeast Asia. When that happened in Thailand, the journalists were sent down to Phuket and the areas around Phuket and beach areas. And they were given instruction to look for traumatized people and look for damage and look for suffering. That was their instruction. So there were some journalists from one company who got in trouble with their boss back in another country because they couldn't find enough people who were traumatized. They were interviewing people who had survived the tsunami and were helping to clear up, just trying to sort themselves out in one way or another. And they'd interview them, and the Thai people, who were mostly Buddhists, would say, well, these things happen, life is impermanent, because they've been hearing that teaching all their life. They still experience the suffering of the situation, the pain, the loss of loved ones, the damage, but they had a lot of wisdom that they accumulated from their Buddhist background. They say karma is like this, karma comes out of the blue, life is impermanent, things happen. Then they carry on sorting out the mess. Even in the darkest hour, the biggest suffering, you can use this teaching to help you. It's impermanent, it's not sure. Of course, perhaps one of the more important news items was all the good that was being done. In Thailand, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, all the places affected, lots of people were helping each other. People were giving free food and accommodation to others. They were giving free help, sorting things out. Doctors, nurses, pathologists were giving free help to help identify bodies so that the loved ones could take them home again. All kinds of good things were going on in a terrible situation. But nobody focuses on that in the news so much. It's more on the suffering and the pain and the trauma. That's what we're looking for. When you come to meditate, you'll notice your mind loves to look at what's wrong. The faults in yourself, the faults in your life, what's wrong with your life, the world. And what's the result of that? You feel negative, disappointed, depressed. If you're meditating, you'll just notice how much you're thinking too much. Too sleepy, thinking too much, worrying too much, irritated, angry, upset. But maybe it's like the news, you're missing the good bits in between. Maybe there's many good things happening that you're not noticing, you're not picking up on or not giving importance to. So this is why when you meditate, it's good to start with something wholesome to start off. Think of the Buddha, somebody who was very peaceful, wise, compassionate. The Dhamma, the teachings which are so clear and show us the way out of suffering. The Sangha, those who have realized peace, practiced following the Buddha and realized the truth, the noble ones. When you think of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha already, your mind improves straight away. When you go to the breath is very neutral and calming. So even if you are feeling irritated or upset, you turn to the breath, you start to feel better. So many monks were teaching the people who got caught up in the tsunami in southern Thailand. And they were teaching them to meditate, to come to terms with their losses and what had happened, and using the breath to help them, first of all, just to calm down, let go of some of the tension, the stress. Then they can look at it more clearly. The pain is still there. If you lose something or something terrible happens, but when you're calm, your mind can understand it and see the impermanent nature of things. And focus more on the positives, the good things. So when we meditate, it's quite normal that negative thoughts, irritation will come up. It's not what we want. We want peace, we want to be enlightened. But we have to work towards that, be patient with what's coming up. But even irritation, agitation, worry can be the basis for enlightenment when you establish mindfulness and see it for what it is. Sabbe sankhara anicca. All conditions are impermanent. Those irritating thoughts, they arise, they pass away. So Ajahn Chah said, if you keep putting effort into bringing up the mindfulness, then you get to the point where your mindfulness is stronger, clearer, more continuous. Doesn't mean to say you won't have memories or thoughts or painful feelings coming up. But now you can watch them because you're mindful. So he said it's like standing on the beach, watching the waves come in. We all know what it's like on the beach. The waves keep coming. They never stop. If there's no wind, the waves are just very small, hardly any movement. If there's a lot of wind, the waves get bigger and bigger, more frightening. But they keep doing the same thing. The waves move into the shore, they break, and then they go back into the ocean and disappear. And then the next wave comes. And all you have to do is stand on the shore, and the waves will break and then disappear, and they're gone. Even the biggest frightening wave, even a tsunami, in the end it will break on the shore and disappear again. So our job is to stand on the shore, to be with mindfulness and wisdom, to look from a place of calm clarity so we can see the way things are. So we learn this in meditation, but then you can carry on when you're not meditating. When you're cleaning or eating, washing your clothes, walking here, walking there, you can still practice watching the arising and passing away of thoughts and feelings, sights and sounds. You don't have to get so caught up in all the details, the contents of your mind. It's not that you never do that. Sometimes we can analyze things, trying to understand things. But also we have to spend time just watching things arise and pass away and not getting involved. This detached awareness. So you're observing from a place of peace. And particularly you can do this in meditation, because at other times it's harder because we're busy, active. But in meditation you've got the time, the opportunity just to sit, just to walk, and watch the thoughts come up and go away again. Sounds arise and cease. Feelings in your body, feelings arise and cease. You can practice watching that and not getting involved. Maybe you develop more deeper experience of peace, calm, mindfulness. So it just gets to the point maybe where there's just this quality of just knowing things, but not creating, imagining, grabbing hold of anything. Just knowing. And when your mind is calm, then you can see things with a balanced mind, see them in perspective. So you know there are some thoughts that are very unskillful, unwholesome, not going to make you peaceful. But you will also see the thoughts that are wholesome, good ones. The wholesome thoughts don't bother you so much. So when you have a thought of kindness, spread metta to the people around you, your mind is more peaceful. And that leads on to feeling of well-being, maybe leads you on to thinking of ways you can help other people as well as yourself, or just wishing them well. So sometimes it's all right to keep thinking about something. If you have a train of thought that's useful and you're aware, you're mindful, you can think. You can think about the Buddha, who the Buddha was, the qualities of the Buddha. You can think about spreading metta and how to help somebody, help others, wishing others well, wishing yourself well. Or karuna, wishing to be free from suffering, wishing others to be free from suffering. The important thing is to maintain the mindfulness and to recognize this is a wholesome thought, or if you start going down the way of unwholesome thinking, because you're mindful, you recognize that, then you have to start letting go. It's kind of the most basic practice in Buddhism. Abandon the unwholesome and cultivate the wholesome. Cultivating the wholesome brings you to keep precepts, offer dana, practice meditation. Brings you to practice mindfulness, to make your mind calm so you can observe things. And this helps to bring up wisdom, panya. Ultimately it's panya that removes suffering from the mind and removes the kilesas, greed, anger and delusion. It's the brightest light in the world, nati panya sama apa. It's the most useful thing in the world, wisdom that removes suffering. Removing suffering may be just seeing something correctly, seeing your wrong thinking, your wrong view, seeing your attachment and realizing, oh, this is something I should let go. When there's no wisdom, we keep bringing up suffering. Say if you think of someone you're annoyed with, you want to get them back, or you want to stop them, get rid of them, you keep thinking, then you keep suffering. You're giving the wrong food to the mind. If you were to bring up the thought of kindness, compassion, forgiveness, letting go, that's the right food for peace, for nibbana. And we spend a lot of time thinking about food for the body. We always want to get tasty food, and we don't want to get bad food, bland food. But what about the food for the heart, food for the mind? Your mind is like an empty vessel, and it's up to you what you put inside, what food you take. It's the same with different kinds of greed and addiction. You have to teach yourself to let go of that addiction, to stop thinking in the same old way It's like someone who's addicted to gambling. They keep losing, but because they once won a long time ago, they keep thinking they're going to win again. So they keep hoping, keep wanting, if I can just win, I'll get some money back, I'll be happy. But they're not looking from moment to moment at what's going on. They're just living in the dream of hopefully winning. But in the present moment they just keep losing all their money, and their life goes downhill. It's what we call abhaya mukha, the way to sorrow, the way to misery. You have to ask yourself what you're feeding your mind every day, what you think about, what you give importance to, what fills up your mind. And sometimes we have to change the diet, change the food. If you keep having a desire for something that's causing you suffering, then stop thinking about it. Stop looking at it, stop getting involved with it, stop talking about it, stop feeding that desire. It's like all those people who look after stray cats. They see the cat and feel sorry for it, so they keep putting food down for it. So it keeps coming back. In the end it moves in. Like the monk who was feeding the birds in the forest here. They kept coming to his kuti, so he couldn't resist. He got the sunflower seeds and kept putting them down. So they kept coming back more and more and more. His window was glass, so if he wasn't out feeding them, they'd come and sit on the window and knock on the window. Where's my food? If he opened the door, they'd just walk in. Where's my food? And that's like our mind. If you keep thinking of the thing you're desiring or addicted to, it'll keep coming back, knocking on the door of your mind. You'll never be peaceful because you keep thinking of it, wanting it. So sometimes you have to be strong and say no. Stop feeding it. Stop giving into it. Sometimes you're strong because you're mindful, and that's enough. Sometimes you become strong when you see the harm. You realize that this thing you're addicted to won't give you happiness. And when you finally realize that you won't win at gambling, you always lose and things get worse, then you're ready to stop. Or if you're addicted to cigarettes, you realize, oh, they're killing me, so you stop. Whatever it is you're stuck on, you have to get to the point where you know, you see that it's harming you, it's not going to make you happy. Then you're willing to stop. Often the thing we like is what is the worst thing for us. It's what harms us the most. It's like the man who had heart surgery, spent his life eating his wife's food that was really tasty but full of oil and made his cholesterol really bad, and then he got a heart attack and he had heart surgery, and the doctor said, I can send you back home, but there's only one instruction. You've got to stop eating all that rich, oily food. It will kill you. He went back home, first week, don't give me that food, just very simple food, bland food. And then he crumbled, started eating his favourite food again. His friends went to see him and said, stop eating that food, it will kill you. He said, well, I'll die happy. Sometimes we make a bargain with life. We say, well, I'll die happy, but it means you die young. Maybe you miss the chance to practice the Dhamma. the more wisdom we have, the brighter the mind, the more clearly we see what is harmful, what is good, what is kusala Dhamma, what is akusala Dhamma. And then we start to abandon the akusala Dhamma and develop the kusala Dhamma. And sometimes we have to be very strong. We have to talk to ourselves correctly. In the end, they're just desires that are impermanent. They're just impermanent desires. They arise, they pass away. They can be let go of because they're impermanent. What's impermanent is not you. You don't have to own it. You can let it go. So for the rest of this period, we can carry on practicing mindfulness till the sound of the bell.